Welcome. This is a presentation for caregivers so that you can understand a little bit more about how Ontario students are assessed in the classroom today. First of all, let's talk about what is assessment. Assessment is evaluating what your student has learned. We are constantly doing this as teachers. Our intention then is to communicate that information to caregivers and families and use the information we gather to make a plan for future learning. It guides our plans as teachers, and it helps students to understand their next steps as they're participating in their learning. The approach in Ontario is called social constructivist. All this means is that we're allowing the students the chance to build their learning together. We want this to be organic and intentional. There's a few ways that we can do this. We can create project-based learning groups. You might notice your student coming home studying something that is a real issue in the world today, such as an environmental concern. That's a project-based learning opportunity for them to connect their theory and their learning to a real-life incident. We might also place them in heterogeneous learning groups. What this means is mixed ability. So, students who demonstrate different strengths and different needs for growth are all working together so they can support one another and learn from each other, just like we adults do in the real world. Project-based learning allows students to use multiple intelligence theory, which allows students to excel in regions where they're proficient naturally. This is part of our mixed ability grouping. What we do is we find students who are strong in certain areas, such as the spoken word or naturalistic learning or musical abilities, and we put them together so they can grow together. This is something called a social constructivist approach because students are building together their knowledge to support one another. When we use project-based learning with multiple intelligences, we lead to differentiated learning when teachers use this to gather evidence and support every student's learning every day in class. We know this from the Manitoba Education, Citizenship, and Youth document. Similarly, heterogeneous or mixed ability learning groups rely on co-learning, so students teach, explain, and support one another through different understandings. For example, in my life, I have paired students with prior gardening experience with those who've never gardened before as we learn some experiential outdoor learning. Just like this, I've also paired strong readers with emerging readers to support each other with success. We also concern ourselves with reflection, something called metacognition. We want students to ask themselves, what can I do differently? Instead of saying, here's what you need to do differently to that student. Assessment can be a motivator, not through reward and punishment, by stimulating students' intrinsic interests. Again, we know this from the Manitoba Education, Citizenship, and Youth document. I can encourage students to reflect by allowing them to co-create assessment opportunities with me. They determine how they want to be assessed, and based on that knowledge that they feel that they can reflect adequately, I can give them an opportunity to reflect their own methods and learning before they complete their assignment. This lets them be in control and gives them the voice as they are the learner and allows them to be more motivated rather than just getting a grade. There are three types of assessment that we offer in school. First is assessment for learning. We want to see where is the student at? What do they already know? What do they recall from prior learning and in their real life? And we use it as a diagnostic tool. This helps us to plan for future teaching. We also use assessment as learning. So students assess their own progress. They engage in peer assessment and assess each other, and they engage in reflection and peer reflection. We also assess students' learning when they're complete. This is more traditional. This is what you think of when you think of assessment, very typically. These are the pieces of information we tend to send home. So final projects, writing tasks, and assignments when the learning is done. So we ask, how did the student do? What do they know? Where are their strengths? This assessment operates in a cycle. We assess the student's prior knowledge. We assess them while they are learning. We assess their completed learning. We continue to assess that prior knowledge that they gained, and they continue learning. Now, the way that we plan for learning is we set up a series of learning goals for our students. First, we create a set of expectations. These are not just from our heads. We use the Ontario curriculum to say, what do we want the student to achieve? This is more for teachers to guide our planning. We want them to reach a big idea, which is something they remember when they leave the classroom. So to do this, we complete a rich task. which gets us to our learning goal. The learning goal concerns the student. They ask themselves, what should I be able to do by the end of the learning? They use I can statements. So here's an example. An expectation from the grade 4 reading curriculum might be express opinions about the ideas and information in texts and cite evidence from the text to support opinions. Now, a student would not necessarily participate in that because they're not understanding that wording. However, a learning goal might be I will be able to express an opinion about the ideas and information in the texts provided. The student can articulate and understand that learning goal and decide whether or not they've achieved that by the end of the learning. There are 3 ways that we gather evidence as teachers. Now, it's very common to think that we just look at their final test or we just look at their final product. However, the truth is that we're constantly running notes on the student and using each type of evidence as supporting us as we calculate their final grade that you might see on their report card. First, we have conversations with the students. We might talk to the student about what they're learning or what their process is. We often make notes about what they say. This is really important in understanding their knowledge. We also observe the students. How are they working with other students? Do they seem to understand the content? Are they supporting others? Are they growing? Are they trying things? We make notes about their achievement as well. And then we finally look at the products. So these might be the final assignments that you see, the performances, tests, quizzes. These are graded and noted, and they are weighed as well as conversations and as well as observations. We want to make sure that our assessments are always fair, so we want to allow choice. For example, when students complete a final assignment, we might allow them the opportunity to create a video, write a speech, write a test, or create a performance. We want to make it accessible so that everybody can access assessment. This is called differentiation. For example, when I'm giving an assessment, such as a quiz, I will read the assessment out loud, also offer visual cues and pictures, or maybe if it's a project, I will show a sample of the expected work. This is so that all students can access the material understanding in the way that they see the world. We gather lots of data from multiple sources. We want to measure the latest growth of the student, not just the earliest information that they provided us. Did they continue learning? Did they continue building their knowledge? We triangulate all 3 forms of data that I mentioned previously, and that helps us to be the most fair when assessing the student. It is our priority to be an equitable and inclusive team as educators. First of all, we understand ourselves as culturally responsive and relevant practitioners. We follow the CRRP format and anti-racist practices to make sure that we are not only creating space for all students in the classroom, but actually honoring and seeing them as assets and gifts in our classroom and building on what they bring to us. We want to engage students through arts, activism, and environmental education. We build our goals and form our mindset by ensuring that all of our content is accessible. For example, it doesn't rely on out of school means or appeal only to students who are able to access different things, such as content, products, or internet outside of school. We want to prioritize student well being, such as mental health. Our goal is to support community membership and amplify their voice. We want to support all students. There are 2 ways that we do this very commonly. They're either modifying, adapting. Modifying means changing the curriculum to suit that student's abilities. We still maintain high expectations for that student, however, we change the way that they can access the curriculum or the content based on their needs. Another option is adapting to the student. Now, think of this in this way. If a countertop or a table is really high and one person can reach it and another person can't, offering an adaptation just means building a step stool or lowering the table so that all students can reach it. Some students have IEPs. These are individualized educational plans. They might be personalized based on a student's behavioral needs, emotional needs, academic needs, etc. This allows me as the teacher to tailor learning to that student so they can still achieve the high expectations that our curriculum has for them. I want to note that we are not lowering learning standards for students who have IEPs. Instead, we're offering them an opportunity to engage with the content by tailoring the content to their needs and tailoring the delivery to their needs. Many students in Ontario are new to English. This is their second or maybe third language. We also offer supports for students learning additional languages. We want to view their heritage as an asset in our classroom, so we allow students the opportunity to achieve their goals in ways that they can access by removing language barriers. Note that our curriculum asks us to evaluate student abilities and expectations, and this is not always in English. We can allow students the opportunity to achieve what they've been asked to achieve, and we can undergo the translation process if they're still quite new to English. There's some tools that we use to support children in the classroom and ensure that they can complete the final assessments. There are technology pieces such as iPads, videos, translation apps. We can offer modified seating, different desks, writing tools. We can offer students aids for hearing, viewing, or understanding the content. We can use pens that dictate or read to me. We can use tools where the student may verbalize what they're trying to communicate out loud and it is translated onto a computer. All students can still be assessed, no matter who they are. We might just use technology to support them so that they can be assessed. How do we measure the student's success? First of all, we consider, like I mentioned, what we want the student to achieve based on the expectations from the Ontario curriculum. We break this achievement into smaller bite-sized components, which we talked about are learning goals. We ask, which components did the students achieve? Which components could the student grow in? Students can also measure their own success by using checklists, rubrics, or questions that they can reflect on. The way that we develop the criteria is often through rubrics or checklists. We want to make our expectations very clear to the students and give examples of what a good, strong achievement looks like and use a checklist or a rubric so that they can get there using stepping stones. There's a framework that we use to assess called the complexity framework, which is in contrast to a simplicity framework where we offer students more than one option of assessment. This is presented by Dee Stanley. We see that many ways of learning can be welcomed in the classroom, which also means that many ways of assessment can be welcomed in the classroom. We really want to decentralize control. It is not about me, the teacher, telling everybody how they must learn and how they must show their learning. Instead, it offers everyone the opportunity to be part of a classroom community. We see our classroom and our learning as whole and connected, just like we do as adults out in the real world. We don't go to the bank and say, now I'm doing math, and come home into the kitchen and say, now I'm doing science. Instead, we see that there's many different components. We've got people skills, social skills, reading skills, linguistic skills, discussion skills in all of our different components. We do math, science, geography, every day, all the time. And we want students to see that everything works together in the real world. We don't just separate everything out all the time into parsed out pieces. So we listen to the students' ideas, we discuss with them, and we observe with them. And we see the classroom as a web of playful possibility. Those are the words of Dee Stanley. So, given all that information, how do we develop students' grades and feedback? Now, you might notice if you have a student in grade 1 to 6, their report card might say A, B, C, D, or occasionally R or I. R means that they have fallen below the expectation of level 1. I means that we do not have enough information to complete an assessment about them. For example, they have not attended school enough, have not participated enough, had conversations enough, or completed enough projects for us to evaluate. Grade 7s to 12 might have a percentage that you note on their report card. This also shows their levels of achievement. Often feedback might be provided without a final mark. For example, a student might receive an art piece or a written piece with no grade on it, just comments. This can be frustrating for the student, but we see this as an opportunity to grow, learn, correct, reteach, or reattempt the task. Perhaps it's still a work in progress and not a final project. We want them to see that they can continue growing and continue improving their work. In the beginning of the school year, grades 1 to 8 might notice progress reports home in the backpack. We give this early in the school year, and we use comments such as progressing well or progressing with difficulty to let you, the caregiver, know how the child is progressing so that when you receive the report card, there's no surprises. We want you to be able to have conversations with us, come up with a plan, and support your student. We also strongly encourage parent, teacher, student conferences. You might notice this does not just say parent teacher conference. We want the student involved. They're an active part of their learning. We're not talking about them behind their back. We want them to be a conspirator in their own education. We have discussions to communicate our goals, consider achievements, and progression. Finally, you will see report cards come home. This is often the final stop on the assessment journey of a particular subject. This notifies future educators, your family, and programs of student achievement. We want to support the student so that they can show the best that they can accomplish as we report their grades, which is why we often really recommend meeting with you and working alongside you through the school year before the report card comes out. So if you have questions, considerations, or want to keep the conversation going, let's keep talking. Here's how you can reach me.